Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. Hello, chat. How's everybody doing? Yo, Mocha. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything working just fine? Music not too loud? Low, low, low. Perfect, Darko. Yo, Toby. Just gonna give it a few minutes for people to hop on, join the live stream here before we get into everything. I'm doing just fine, CXMCJ. How are you? Where was your trip to? Luckily, I've fully recovered from being ill last week, so sorry again for having to postpone this live stream. Yes, I do remember, Toby. Although not like from reading your name though, but now you mention it, yes, I do remember. How did that work out? Did you get a good new PC? Welcome everybody. You're here for the live stream for the latest Kaizen Dojo Discord challenge. Ooh, Atharva, you can always join the Discord and get feedback from everybody in there. And if you want specific feedback on a piece of work that you've made, the best way to get that is by joining in on challenges, as I will do live reviews of every submission for the challenge there. And sometimes I respond to posts on the Discord as well. Okay, so you went with the Aorus 1590 Master combined with the AMD 9950X. Okay. Sounds good. 5090 is even way better than mine, honestly. I have a 4090, so very curious how the 5090 would do. And the 9950 3D version is insane. So I'm not even entirely sure what I'm running, but I believe that I'm doing a 9700X. Yeah, Shaded Lady, it's just that way we can prevent most bots joining the channel. There's still the occasional spam account joining, but by having phone verification, it's just the easiest way to prevent mass spam of, things that we don't want. Money scams, stuff like, yeah, a lot of stuff that we don't want on the channel. Ah, okay, perfect, Atharva. I will have a look after the stream. Hello, Georgie. Hello. Hello, Kaizen. I'm a 3D generalist working as a 3D motion graphics artist. I'm thinking about going full-time content creation in the next few months. Is it worth doing to get clients? I mean, the exposure from being online is always well worth the effort. So by making a YouTube channel, there's a large chance that people will find you, and if you're available for work, that can lead to a lot of gigs. However, personally, having done this for a couple of years now, the amount of time that I have to spend maintaining the channel to keep it at this sort of level, it leaves me with very little time to do freelance work. So you have to take that into consideration. So either you have to get more people on it eventually, but yeah. I mean, making tutorials isn't that hard, Atharva. You just have to get over the hurdle of trying to put yourself out there. I guess that's the hardest part of it. If you feel like your work is good enough and you feel you have knowledge to share, then that's basically all you need to get started. Ooh, nice, Toby. You want to learn Blender Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a grind in the beginning. Eventually you'll be able to put in more effort once it starts bringing in something, I guess. But yeah, for me, it was like the first year and a half or so of the channel were just me doing this on the side while I was working a job too. Everybody, welcome. The challenge was about a very specific theme this time around. It's like we always do challenges and they're always something to do with themes, but in this case the theme was very unique and it was time, not as a thematic concept and like you had to visualize time, but time was the challenge itself. So everybody who joined had a max amount of time they could spend on their piece, which was 6 hours in total, and after putting in those 6 hours you had to call it quits. So that would be the point where you just leave it. And this sort of time constraint is also one of the reasons that it gets a little bit harder, because if you have to plan, you have to calculate how much time can I spend modeling. Do I need to model? Maybe I'm better off kit bashing. Do I need to do some compositing, or can I just do everything in camera, etc., etc. You have to really think about it instead of just making whatever comes to mind and then just putting in as many hours as you want. So yeah, almost from the Netherlands, Toby. Perfect. Are you coming to the Blender conference? Anybody here coming to the Blender conference, by the way? It's in a couple of weeks, actually. All right, so let's go ahead and start working on getting some of these submissions covered. We don't have that many this time around, so we can cover them a little bit deeper, which I kind of like that, honestly. So I have a bunch of image submissions and a few animations, which was kind of nice to see. Let's begin with the images. Thank you, RXWT. Appreciate it. Hey. Thank you so much, Toby. Really appreciate that. The support is really much appreciated. Any more questions, you can always send me an email. I believe my email is in the YouTube description somewhere, or at least it's on my channel. So, and if you do come to the Blender conference, that would be amazing, and I would love to have a chat there. Uh-oh, Radical is doing work and leisure at the same time. When is the conference? The conference is September 15th through 17th. No, it's 17th through 19th, I think. Not 100% sure. I can look it up. The Blender conference. It's in Amsterdam. Yeah, 17th through 19th. My face cam's off. Oh, I moved it. Whoops, there we go. Hello. Here we are again. I should lock it, actually. Yeah, no, I can't move it anymore. I just moved it around. Oh, it's sold out. Okay. Even the day pass? Like the single day pass? Yeah, in the meantime, let's get going with some of these submissions. There we go. All right, so this first submission is by our very own mod, Radical, and he's in the chat here as well. So you can absolutely check out his work. He does some amazing stuff. And this is his very cool mech piece. So I think this is very, very nice. The lighting is great. There's nice rim lighting. The character is nicely silhouetted, you know, because there's a very clear separation between background and the character, which is something that I always like. Yeah, I believe Radical made this fully from scratch in 6 hours. So that's actually quite amazing if you think about it. But as you can see, there's a nice sort of silhouette shape for the character, right? And that's just because of the darker background, so that's really nice. I really like that. Yeah, that's super awesome, Radical. In 6 hours, that's incredible. Including like all the materials, all the lighting, camera work stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. I really love those eyes too. They remind me of like Terminator. I think mostly like Terminator, maybe a little bit of a crossover with Transformers there. But Megatron, what's his name? The bad guy. And then sort of combined with Terminator. It's really, really cool. Like the one thing I would like to change here, I reckon, you know, I always have something to critique here, right? Is I was wondering why you went for sort of this aspect ratio. I guess it makes sense to show off most of this sort of bust as possible, but I think you could have gone for something a little bit more, you know, cinematographic or something with a different aspect ratio. So maybe we could have gone. I need a little bit more space here, but I don't know. Let's go for something like that. Just you guys will see me mess around a lot here, but I guess you're missing top of the hat now, but you could potentially change that with the camera perspective a little bit, I guess. Let's use some AI magic here. You love 4.3 nowadays. It allows me to bring more focus to the center when I want the attention to be there. I agree. If you know, for showcasing your model, it was incredible. But I think in terms of like making the entire image a little bit more interesting, having some cinematography and, you know, composition and stuff like that, could be kind of nice there. Another thing that would be kind of cool here is to have a little bit of glare for these eyes. So maybe, let's see, we can go color layer there. And we're just gonna go make a little bit of a glare for those eyes. Emphasize how those look. Make something like that. And we're just gonna put this on. It's kind of nice. Makes it a little bit more dramatic. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And same here with maybe some volumetric type stuff, or maybe having another sort of light coming in from over here. Let's make that a different color, actually, just so we have a bit more matching with the color that you used for lighting there. Just having a little bit of that wash could be kind of nice. Right? And I guess you went with sort of the red and blue type thing here, although red and blue aren't necessarily complementary colors, but I guess these sort of orangey and blue are. I don't think this necessarily needs that sort of two color scheme here. So maybe what we can do is we can try and see if we are able to get this color here and here to be more red. Let's just see. It's going to be more orange, right? I guess something like that. just to have it be less blue, I suppose. We can also try and add a little bit more here. I'm trying to cook this up live, guys, sorry. There's still blue here too. Basically what I'm trying to say is you wouldn't necessarily need to have sort of the split color there. Oh, okay, so it's law enforcement. Yeah. That kind of makes sense. The police. Yep. I like that, actually. The police. That does make sense. However, in that case, I would still kind of like it to be, for that to be a little bit more obvious. So maybe you could have done, I don't know, like police lights in the background here. So there's red here, but then you go and do another one here, and maybe there would be a very clear police headlight there in the back. That would be kind of nice. Because it does make sense, actually, now that I think about it, but... yeah, that would also be great, like some decals. Or a badge, you know, something like that. Yeah, very cool piece, though. Like, you know, just taking back all my edits here, but amazing render. Amazing render, and especially amazing that you were able to do this in 6 hours. So great job. Love it. I just want to point out, guys, there aren't any sort of prizes for this challenge in this case. Sometimes we do have prizes, but in this case we don't. It's just me giving some feedback, and hopefully that helps you guys out in your further art endeavors. All right, so that's it for Reticle. Next up, we have this incredible piece by Mugan, which I might pronounce completely incorrect. Yeah, bragging rights. That's basically it, B4D. Ah, man, that sucks. Yeah, it's every year, actually, Toby. So definitely come check out next year then. Yeah, this is super cool. The very wide aspect ratio for this one. It's really nice. Honestly, there's a process creation video for this one. So in the submissions on my Discord channel, you can just go to Mugan's submission here, and there is a process of how they made this entire piece. I would highly recommend you check it out because it shows a little bit of, you know, how they approach creating a scene like this. It's very, very cool. And to be honest, there isn't much I would change at all. Like personal preference here, which is that it's not feedback, it's just personal preference, is I like a little bit more contrast, even a little bit more texture maybe, and more color. Like the color for me could be stronger. I like a little bit more saturated colors like that. So just turning up the vibrancy there. You know, before, after. That's literally all I would do to this image, but that's just my personal preference. It's not feedback or critique at all. It's just me giving you my taste. Yeah, I can definitely do a product animation challenge too, Tharva. I think we did something like that, but we always try to do unique challenges every time. So definitely make sure to join, and I will check out your work as well. So I'm unsure which one of these you guys prefer. Like I said, I prefer the more full colors. But yeah, I mean, very, very cool piece. It reminds me of Expedition 33. Not sure if you guys played that, but yeah, reminds me of that. Very, very cool. No feedback whatsoever. Yes. Well, in the sense that it's kit bashed largely. And there's post-processing in Photoshop, so it's not fully Blender. It's basically the whole suite of creative software that you need to make a compelling art piece. But yes, it's made from scratch in that sense. Ooh, I don't know that game, CXMCJ. No idea, but sounds cool if it looks like this. Yeah, you prefer the more saturated too. Yeah, me too. But again, that's just personal preference. All right, so the next one that we have is actually by CXMCJ, who's in the chat. So give them some props here. And this is a really cool piece. Now, you might recognize it from the thumbnail for this stream, which is correct. I use it for that. Hello, Davey. This is a critique/feedback live stream for the Discord challenge, which hosts Blender 3D Discord challenges. Art challenges, basically, which we do somewhat frequently, where people can join in and present their own artworks. There's usually themes. In this case, the theme was time, especially time constraint. And yeah, I can definitely do a noob challenge too, Toby, but basically they're for all levels. In this case, we got some very, very amazing submissions in general, but yeah, there's people of all levels joining in on these challenges, and that's a good thing because I want to show the breadth of, you know, skill levels that are out there and critique that same sort of breadth as well. So definitely join in no matter your experience. Well, the thing with this image, CXMCJ, is I changed it a little bit, which you might have noticed from the thumbnail. I made some minor changes. Again, this largely comes down to personal preference, but there's one thing that I think that you could have done a little bit better. So let me just zoom in a little bit here so this is a little bit bigger for you guys. Your image is relatively dark, so all these corners, for example, down right, left, right, down left, up right, with the exception of up left, they're very, very dark, and you're losing a ton of detail. So if I just crank up the exposure and just max it out here real quick, you see all that detail here. You actually managed to render this with quite a decent amount of dynamic range, so I can sort of change that, but there's so much detail here that's going lost. So what I would do is I would definitely crank up the exposure a little bit. Well, a little bit actually. I would go for something like 2+2, which is quite a large exposure increase. That sort of overexposes the highlights a lot, so we just take those down to make them a little less overexposed. We can add in a bit more contrast here. We can also increase the blacks to make them a little bit lighter too, and just down the whites a little bit. Now, again, I like a little bit more saturated colors, just increasing the vibrancy a little bit here. And the other thing is more local contrast is just a favorite of mine. A little bit more texture. These are all camera raw filters instead of Photoshop, by the way, but you could achieve all of this identically within Blender by just using compositing. And then we just add a little bit of grain. I would do something like that. And I believe, so this is your image before the edits, and this is after. Same image, same render, just a few minor changes, and it's kind of hard to explain why I would say that this is better than this, but to me it is. It just feels a little bit more alive. It feels like it has more depth. It feels like it has more going on. There's more to see, there's more to look at, there's more detail, essentially, for free, basically. Because making these two images took the same amount of time, and the only difference is, like, you know, if I were to do this off stream, I would have done this in like 30 seconds, making these changes. Done. So again, this also comes down to personal preference. You might enjoy this being completely different. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reset all of this. Yep, let's just close that down. We're just going to do that again. And what could also work is, again, just upping the exposure and toning down the contrast. And maybe we further increase the highlights. And we make the shadows a little bit darker now. And in this case, what we're going for, the washed out look. So instead of going with more saturation, but we're still increasing the exposure overall to get more detail in there. And this just gives it that hazy, see, before, after. So now I went less with color and less with putting emphasis on contrast and stuff like that, but more with, maybe we can try and make the image decrease local contrast. See how we can even make it sort of misty. So like if I increase the local contrast, we go more towards the image that I just did. There's a lot more detail, but we can also remove detail by removing the local contrast. And in this case, we can just make it feel like it's a very foggy. Maybe there's a lot of smog. Maybe there's a lot of mist and haze in this type of dystopian city. Yeah, that's another way of sort of approaching the image. Again, same image, just a few different tweaks in terms of like compositing. You could have done all of this inside of Blender too. All right. Overall, very cool submission though, CXMCJ. I really enjoyed it. I love this sort of, it kind of reminds me of a jellyfish. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but it reminds me of a jellyfish. Really enjoyed this art piece, one of my favorites, and you know, there's a reason I chose it for the thumbnail of the video. Great job, and I would love to see what you come up with in the future too. Next up, we have this piece called Alley Breach by Jules. Jules is a frequent submitter to the challenges, and this is again an awesome piece. I love the colors here, the way these sort of lines all guide my eyes, right? So over here we have very clear lines to guide me where I need to go. So let's make that a little bit bigger. I think this is on. There we go. So there's one going here, there's one going here, there's one going here, there's one going here, here. There's just a bunch of ways that your eyes are being guided towards the sort of focal point of the image, which is this thing. Which is great. Overall, not a whole lot of feedback I would give on this image. Again, for me personally, I would have slapped on another camera raw filter or added in some compositing inside of Blender. It works either way. Maybe increase the exposure again a little bit, just pulling in some of that detail here that might go lost in the darkness otherwise, increasing the contrast. Color, you know, I love it. Just increasing it slightly here because there's already a lot of it. And just adding in, whoops, there we go. A little bit more local contrast, a little bit more texture. Maybe some vignetting to further emphasize the focal point here. Like this would be way too much. We can just add in a little bit here, make that a little bit better. Yeah, that's all I would really do to this image. Really cool. Very cool piece. And I love the fact that you added in all this nice glow around all of these elements. Very cool. Can you create a video in the style of a Jurassic Park themed animation? I think there's a bunch of Blender tutorials already around creating Jurassic Park themed animations, anime motive. So also, I'm not a huge animator or anything, so that's probably not the type of video for me. Oh, that's nice reticle. Yeah, blue would also work here really well, actually. Let's just go ahead and see how that looks. If you want to make an image, it's just a small tip. You can just make a render like this, make a fast, low resolution render, and then just use a hue saturation node, which is available inside of Blender 2. And you can tweak that to see how the image would look with just a different overall color scheme. You can even, if you want, you can even make sure it's not all affected, I guess. But this is an easy way of seeing how the image would look without having to re-render. You can also do this using light groups, and then do it through compositing, which would look a lot better than doing it like this. But it's just a quick way of, playing around with certain color schemes and seeing what works best for your image. Not on stream, Mohammed Ron. You can always join the Discord and just upload links to your portfolio pieces, and people will give feedback on it. I tend to not do a lot of that just because it takes up so much time. But if you want personal feedback, we can always arrange something with forms of compensation and stuff like that. All right, so those are all of the image submissions. I'm just gonna go over them real quick again. So we have Mr. Radical here with this incredible piece. We had Mugan with this amazing piece, CXMCJ with this amazing piece, and finally this incredible render by Jules. Let's go over the animated ones. So there's 3 more submissions. So including radicals, there's 7 submissions. So next up we have this one. And I believe this was done by B4D. So I'm not gonna play the music just because I'm unsure whether or not it's copyrighted, B4D. Sorry. But let's see how that looks. Nice. Hey, there's the name. Nice touch. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I've seen your animation with the music well, because I didn't. So we'll get to that in a bit. Okay. No idea for the next challenge just yet, Toby. Nope. Also, if I were to have an idea, you're not gonna hear it because it will give you ideas before. And that's unfair. Everybody has the same starting point, right? That's the important part with these challenges, that everybody gets the same framework to make something. But yeah, this is really cool, B4D. I love this. There are certain shots I love more than others. So let's see. For example, this shot is kind of cool. I'm unsure whether you went with like a square format here. But it's a nice shot. It is in stark contrast to the rest of sort of the shots though. So you went with very minimalistic style throughout the video, and then for this specific shot you chose a lot of detail, like an environment and stuff. So I would have preferred that the rest of the sort of story that you're trying to tell sort of takes that same style. But it's a cool shot. I love this shot. I think it's really cool. Again, you went here with the square format, which I like. But then over here, you decide to go in a different format. Yeah, this is really cool angle. I love this angle. It's very creative. And then here, one thing that I can sort of tell here is that at least I believe so, that these are the same scenes. So the sort of wall that you're driving through is the same as this one. You just change up the lighting. I would have liked it if sort of the overall wall and scene here would be a little bit different, just to add in some more variation. It's a cool shot though, for sure. This is also very nice. I love this part. This is really cool. And then the lighting here, it feels somewhat vintage somehow. I don't know, like it's a 70s image or something, but I really like how this looks. And my PC specs, yeah, I can give them in a bit on us. Then this shot, the final shot here, the thing that you did with the depth of field in this shot, so you have a lot of, it's annoying when I move my mouse over this, it immediately pops up this thing, but the depth of field that you chose for this shot, it creates that tilt shift effect a little bit for me. It makes the scene at large feel very small. It feels like a miniature car now instead of a full-size car. And that's because just if this were a real shot, and I think Toby could probably explain it a little bit more since he does video production, but if you were to try and capture this same exact image in real life, it would be really, really hard to do, just of how the depth of field works in this shot. It's sort of the lens that you would need to put a car in frame, including like a huge container, and then have this sort of depth of field going on is kind of, well, it might even be impossible, but so we can answer that. Yeah, so this sort of final shot is my least favorite, I think, but overall, yeah, really cool animation. And I love the fact that you went for black and white. It's always a bold move because you're now stuck with the very bare minimum that you get to show. There's no color, there's less to see in that sense, less to convince people, but that means that the things that are visible need to be done really well, and you've done those very well. I've done a little bit of visual effects, not that much. I have a video on, like, you know, a bit of compositing. I have a video a little bit on cinematography and a few tiny things in here and there on VFX, but I mostly come from like product stuff. That's my background, and before that I did a lot of 2D design mostly. Yeah, great work, B30. Love it. And I love this sort of unique style that you chose here too, with the drippy graffiti style tag there. Really cool. Now, to answer your question, Anas, my PC is a RTX 4090 Founders Edition, so just the NVIDIA Founders Edition. I have a AMD Ryzen 9 9700X, and I have 64 gigs of RAM. And my motherboard doesn't really matter that much, but I believe it's called like the Tomahawk B something. Yeah, that's about it. Most important things are like 46 gigs of RAM, 4090 graphics card, and 9700X AMD Ryzen CPU. It's a beast. It's now, I think, getting close to 2 years old, but it's still doing everything buttery smooth. Nawaf, yes, that's a question I get a lot. Do I think AI will take over the 3D world? No, I do not. No. Or, I mean, yes, it will, but in the same way that computers took over the art world. One can exist. They can exist at the same time. So, you know, real art, like doing painting, drawing, those types of things, they haven't died just because of the invention of the PC. But the PC has made it a lot easier and streamlined to create art in a digital medium. And AI will do the same, in my opinion. It's not going to replace artists, I think. It's going to replace tedious processes. It's going to replace certain steps. It's going to replace certain jobs. Yes, it will replace certain jobs. Like the guy who used to mix paint, maybe for a living, doesn't have a job anymore because of computers, because so many artists quit doing that, and there's no need for 200 people mixing paint anymore. There's only need for one of them nowadays. So yes, that sort of shifts how things work at a large scale. But does that mean that the artist making the art is out of a job? No, I don't think so. The thing is, you have to sort of consider what makes you an artist. Is it your creativity? Is it the skills that you possess? If you're very, very good at drawing, but you have no ideas in your mind, you're just good at drawing technically, does that make you an artist, or does it just make you good at drawing? I would argue even that does not make you an artist. It just makes you good at drawing. And what I mean by that is, if you lack the vision to create or put your skills, you know, into something and create something that's uniquely your own, then you're just skilled at something, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're an artist. Could AI replace skills? Yes. But can it replace artistry? No. That's sort of my my whole take there. Toby came back with an answer. Yes, it's not possible to get that much depth of field. Yeah, that's what I figured, Toby. From photography. That's what I figured. Good to think you're real there, or you agree. Sorry. Yeah, voiceover artists, more fate. Yeah, that's true. Maybe. And again, it really depends on what you're doing within the 3D space, whether or not AI will replace you. Maybe if you're just a full-time rigger, maybe if you're a full-time modeler, yes, that could technically be a threat. But if you're able to create something unique and make true art, like what I would consider these pieces to be, is like, it's a vision of a person trying to put their idea, which was uniquely their own, into a visible image that I could see and enjoy and review. And that's something that only a human can do, I think, at least to a degree that we enjoy. Oof. That's a very specific question, Mark Poppin. Off topic, but still Blender related. Do you know why I get manifest missing when installing some items? I have no idea. Sorry. No idea. I haven't ever heard of that error too. I'd say Google it, see what happens, see what comes up. We're just gonna go and review the last two submissions, guys, and then we're just gonna answer some more questions because we got some time left. First of all, let's watch the last two submissions. So this is the first one. I can't play the audio just because of the copyrighting that, but believe me, it's fun audio. Maybe Radical can link this in the chat so people can watch it with the audio for themselves. Let's just have a look here. Yo, babe, good to see you. Finally, you're here for a live stream. There goes the bowl of food. Nice. Okay. So the first time I watched it, I kind of had a few giggles here and there. It's really fun to see you tried to capture sort of the reality of cat life a little bit here, and I really enjoyed that. I have a cat myself. The fact that it's unrigged makes it funnier, just because it feels so random to see the cat do things that it does, but then not do any of the realistic animation. That's kind of funny. What sort of takes me out of it a little bit is two things. So the first thing is the fact that you went for this sort of cut to black frame change every time, if that makes sense. And what that does is, because it cuts to black, it's kind of hard for me to see what really changed before and after, because there's no camera change, right? There's no real hard change in the image. So the only real thing that's changing is the position of the cat. So let's see. So over here we have it being in one place, and then we have a frame scene cut, and then it's there. And I have to look for that. And that's because the cat itself isn't very visible, because the color of the cat sort of matches in with the general color of the frame. It's hard for me to see where the cat is. So I have to look for the cat, then see what it's doing. But usually before I fully sort of got all that, there's another frame change. So I have to do it again. And that makes it hard. Like mentally, it makes it harder to watch the animation. Which takes away from the quality of it. So what I would do, first of all, is don't do the cut to black. Just do a hard cut between frames so that it's more obvious that stuff is changing. And the other thing that I would do is try and make sure that your subject, which in this case is that cat, obviously, is highlighted a little bit better. A good example of that, I think, is the Garfield movie. So I'm just going to show you this trailer here. It's really cute. But there's some very obvious sort of choices here that even in frames where there's mostly one single color, orange, just like, you know, Garfield's orange here. Like over here, obviously they chose for the orange and teal color scheme, right? So it's just two complementary colors, orange and a blue color. It works really well. Over here, they went with a more different color scheme, but there's a couple of shots in this movie. Like over here, it's a very warm image. So generally speaking, this entire image would be somewhat considered orange. But because of sort of the lighting, see how it sort of silhouettes Garfield, and the fact that the main character here is also holding Garfield, you never lose sight of where Garfield is. And there's a few more of those shots. Let's see here. Yeah, a little bit more here. Like, for example, here, this is just 100% of one color, probably. This is probably a monochrome image. It's just one shade of orange, ranging from very, very light orange until very, very dark orange. It's just one single shade of orange. It's called monochrome. And no idea why the music stopped, but there we go. It still works though, because of how these colors were used. So all of the bright orange colors were used around the more saturated orange colors to make sure that Garfield, no matter the fact that this is all one same general color is still very, very legible. You can still very clearly see where Garfield is, what his shape is, and what he's doing. So that's something that I would definitely try and do more here. Maybe you can make the cat black. Maybe you can make the, that makes it easier to see. Maybe you can make it white. That makes it easier to see. Maybe you can change up the lighting or have like a spotlight follow the cat. Maybe, there's a bunch of things that you could do to further emphasize where this cat is and what it's doing. But overall, I really like the storytelling in this one. There's some really fun bits. I really enjoyed the animation with the electricity. Let me see where this. Yeah, there we go. I like those yellow thingies that you use there. Those are great. It's the perfect way to emphasize something. You also have the lights cut off there, so that's really well done. Those are some very nice details. So it's just mainly me struggling to find where the cat is in your animation that makes it a little bit harder for me to understand what's going on. But having seen it, a dozen times now, I fully know what's there, and I really like this creative submission that you did. Well done. Arsene, the challenges are somewhat frequent. They aren't like monthly or anything, but we try to do a handful of them every year. So yeah, great submission, Bo-Katan, and very original, that's for sure. Alrighty, and that leaves us with our final submission, which is this one by Webbo, one of our veterans. Nice. Okay, so Webbo joins every challenge, and it's really cool. In this case, it has this very sort of sci-fi fantasy vibe, and there's a bunch of sort of weird monsters. There's a couple of dragons. There's a few even weirder monsters towards the end. There's some sort of bug, some sort of, I don't know, whatever that is, but I don't want to see it in my room at night, or during daylight for that matter. But the thing that sort of takes me out of this, this whole sort of vibe that you have, is this material that you chose for the background. Because everything feels very normal, in a sense. I guess the idea here is that it's sort of normal to have these monsters as pets in your house, which, in some universe it could be, so that's pretty cool. But this sort of weird metal material that you chose for the walls and ceiling, and then the floor, it kind of takes me out of it. It makes it feel like a dream somewhat, or like a weird fever dream maybe. So what I would have done, since the rest of the scenery is so plain, you have just radiator, very basic couch, coffee table is extremely simple, bookcase, everything feels very generic. So I would have kind of liked it if the walls and the floor had that same generic feeling. And the thing that sort of makes this scene interesting and weird and fantasy like are these monsters, these creatures. I like the animation. I like the way you sort of showcase this room. That's all really good, but this material just takes me out of it. This might also, again, just be personal preference, but it really just takes me out of it. The other thing that I would really enjoy, I'm unsure, because it kind of reminds me of the Harry Potter dragons, the very small Harry Potter dragons, once they come out of the egg. Let me see if I can find that sort of movie scene. I think so. Let's see. I believe, yeah, this is it. So once it comes out of the egg, what it does is does this sort of fiery burp, right? I believe. Let's see. Look at those dated VFX. This was so amazing when I watched this the first time when I was a kid. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. It goes here. Watch it go. Watch it go. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Whoop. Flames. Okay, so yeah. Now imagine that for your scene. How cool would it be if this little dragon here just did a tiny little burst of flames? Like a burp of flames. That would be so cool. So that's probably what I would go with. Or maybe the other one does it, like this one up top here. Could also be kind of nice. It makes it feel more alive and integrated into the scene. And then combining that with more regular walls and just this being an everyday living room, I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah. So that's all of our submissions. Thank you again, Webbo, for participating. I love your creativity. It's like one of the best in terms of like creativity. You always have something so incredibly unique. So I really enjoy that. Thank you. These were all the images. I'm not gonna choose my favorite. I'm not gonna, you know, choose a winner. There's, well, let's go ahead and choose a winner and a runner-up, just because of the titles that we give out for bragging rights. But there's, in my opinion, there's no true winner because all of these submissions are amazing. That's noted, Anime Motive. Would be kind of cool to do something with that, maybe. So for me, I'm gonna go and choose Mugan's here as the winner. I believe Mugan already won once before, so there's no real new bragging rights for them, but it's just such an incredible piece. The artwork is amazing. The way the sort of composition is done is amazing. Yeah, again, like I said, there's nothing that I would fault this on. So incredible artwork, and for me, this is the winner. And CXMCJ, you get to be the runner-up, just because I really enjoyed this piece, which is why I used it for the thumbnail. So absolutely great piece. But definitely also shout outs to Jules, to B4D and his amazing Porsche render, to Radical for creating this incredible robot in just 6 hours, and to Webbo for their cool dragon piece, and to Mocha Titan for the very fun cat animation. So that leaves it with some time and room for questions. We could also just hop into Blender, maybe do some fun stuff in there. Let me know what you guys want. Yeah, congratulations. Well deserved. Really cool piece. Yes, my name is Yessa, and yes, I do YouTube full time. Third, that's a good question. Yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily have a third for this one, but in that case, I would choose Radical, just because of how, you know, incredibly detailed and well done this sort of model is for just 6 hours of work. I think it's really stellar work. So yeah, Radical gets number 3 here. But yeah, Toby, I do it full time, or at least full time. It's my main job. I don't work 40 hours a week. That's the definition of full time. But yeah, I became a father like 16 months ago, and you know, being a dad is what I would consider my full-time job now. It's something that really keeps me busy. Yo, thank you, Stenny. Love to hear that. Thank you. By the way, I'm an 18 years old 3D artist. I learned 3D when I'm 16. I have a good experience with cartoon animation because it really helps and I really appreciate it. So thank you, Anime Motive. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. And you're very young still, so keep at it, and you'll definitely become a pro at some point. Yeah. At this point, just write them all. No, we're not gonna do that. I'd rather answer some more questions. It's also kind of, at some point, it becomes less nice to keep ranking them. There's still 4 left, and I don't want to make people feel bad just because I have to choose which one is number 7, for example. Yes, I get that a lot, CXMCJ, but yes, I am married, I have kids. Well, I have 1 kid, but I am 34 years old, and definitely not so young anymore, but people tend to think I am, which I guess is a blessing. Yeah, we'll do Reticle. Thank you for being here, buddy. Appreciate it. Yes, 34. 34. 34. And, you know, like, what's it, like half a year away from 35? So, thank you. Appreciate it, CXMCJ. Really appreciate it. Yeah, you know, Toby, I like to say the same, basically. I'm 34 and I don't know that much about Blender. Honestly, I've been doing Blender for, I guess, now close to 7 years, and still there's so much more to learn. I guess I know more about art, design, and 3D in general than I would say I know about Blender specifically. But this just because there's so much to learn in Blender. There's so many tools, so many features. Yeah, it's crazy. But you don't need to know that much too about Blender. You just need to know the things that are important for whatever you're trying to achieve inside of Blender. And to me, Blender is nothing more than just a tool to create, right? So if I know what I need to know to create the work that I want to create, then that's basically all that I need to know. And that makes me, for my specific purposes, that makes me a master of Blender. I'd like to become an environment artist. Someone has tips. Environment art is very cool. It's kind of hard. Honestly, I would focus on doing Unreal mostly for that, because nobody's gonna use Blender for environment art. So basically all you would need to learn is you learn creating art, like the environment props inside of Blender, maybe making some cool rocks, but even those are usually just, you know, scans, like mega scans, stuff like that. So the main thing that you would focus on is creating incredibly good looking, realistic environments inside of Unreal, and then putting in some hero props that would give your environment some story. Maybe it's like an ancient Chinese temple, and then you would need to learn Blender to make that Chinese temple, and you would need to learn Substance to make the Chinese temple look realistic, and then you take all of that and put it into Unreal, add in some plants, foliage, trees, other stuff, rocks, whatever textures for the ground, and all those things, and then combined you get this incredible environment art piece. I keep grinding on my work, but deep down I'd love to break into Hollywood as VFX artist or director someday. Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool. I think it's kind of hard working from home. You know, there's probably better off going to school and trying to get connections for that. I believe a lot of that industry is just people knowing other people. Of course, you can always make it big and get your work be seen online, but it feels like one of those things that, you know, VFX studios tend to work with maybe certain artists that come from certain schools because they know they have good education there, etc., etc. Yeah, bye, Shaded Lady. Thank you for joining the stream. Good to have you. What about Houdini? I think Houdini is incredible. I don't know much about Houdini except that I've seen amazing work done inside of Houdini. I've heard Houdini is sort of the software that rules them all. I think with geometry node development, a lot of stuff that you can do inside of Houdini is also possible inside of Blender. Houdini just has incredible vellum solvers and fluid stuff, and you can do all these crazy simulations inside of Houdini. But you can also apparently do modeling and all that stuff. Yeah, thank you for joining, CXMCJ. Good to have you too. I follow some environment tutorials and stuff, but sometimes I hesitate where I need to invest time. For example, do you know a lot about... Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about geometry nodes in that sense. I know it at a surface level. I know for what I want to use it for. And I kind of agree with Blender Guru's statement on geometry nodes, is that it's usually not time well spent learning geometry nodes. I believe I heard like one of the VFX artists over at Kansas Studios say it really well at a Blender conference 2 years ago. And they said, if you need to create one spaceship model, you should do it by hand. You should just model that spaceship. If you need to create 400 spaceship models, you should create a geometry nodes based procedural tool that builds spaceships with random seeds, and you can easily make 400 of them. But building that one tool will take longer than making one single spaceship. So it depends on the question and depends on what solution you're looking for, whether or not you have to learn geometry nodes. If you're not a procedural artist and you don't need to make hundreds of variations of the same thing, then there's usually no point in learning geometry nodes, besides the fact that it's fun. It's fun. It's really cool what you can do with it, and I enjoy learning it, but it's also very technical. It's not very creative in a sense of how putting a pen to paper would be creative. It's a different way of being creative. It's more of a what's the word? I guess it's more technically creative. It's more mathematically creative, stuff like that. Mocha, that's a perfectly good reason to not rig a cat. It's probably the same reason why I wouldn't have rigged it too. I can't rig to save my life. Anand says, hey, I'm a big fan of you. Thank you. You have a question? Yes. This year I have earned $1,000 on Upwork. I have 1 year experience. I'm 18 years old. I mean, $1,000, I don't know where you're from, but depending on where you live, that's huge, right? For Upwork. So that sounds like a very, very good way to go. I don't think I have the artist eye. I can model stuff to look right. If you take a good look at them, like I know some people. I don't think anybody has the artist eye by default, Mocha. It might not be what you want to hear, but I can guarantee you that I've actually seen a ton of posts. Maybe you've seen the video by PewDiePie, but it's actually a very good example. PewDiePie took it upon himself to learn how to draw anime. And if you saw how he began drawing anime, he had like no experience at all in it. And he's also like, how old is he? Somewhere in his 30s. He took up drawing and he began drawing anime characters. And in the beginning, they were terrible. I have to be real here. I can't draw them any better, but they were terrible. The proportions weren't right. Eyes were skewed, limbs were incorrect, facial features were just wrong. And he drew for like once a day, maybe an hour per day for like a year or so. And by the end of that year, his work was like incredibly good. And maybe he has some talent for that, yes. But at the same time, being consistent, putting in the effort, and just, keeping at it for a year is more important. He learned by consuming knowledge. He read books on anatomy. He read books on drawing manga and anime and all those things. And he used that information, condensed it into his brain, and put it onto paper by just continuing to draw and to draw and to draw and focusing on certain things, focusing on hands, focusing on faces, focusing on hair, focusing on shading. And by the end of 1 year, he became, well, what most people considered incredibly good. So you do not need the natural born talent to draw or the natural born talent to model. Everybody starts by making crap. You're from India, so yeah, $1,000 is like amazing then, right? And when you're 18 and maybe it's not a full-time job just yet, that sounds incredible. How can I improve professionalism? I work for clients, but I can't upload posts on Insta or other stuff. I mean, if you have an Upwork profile, that's basically your portfolio then, right? So you just put the best projects in there, focus on those. Maybe you even make some passion projects which weren't paid, but just showcase your skills as an animator or as a product creator or modeler. So that I would say is something that you can do. I mean, yeah, that's true. Not so much, frankly. Being a millionaire makes it easier to put in time. But if you're young and going to school and you have a lot of free time on your hand, then that's about equally as good as being a millionaire. You know, instead of playing, I don't know, what's the hip game these days? Roblox? Oh no, that's banned now. I don't know. Instead of playing that game that you play for 4 hours every week, you put that time into something else and you get something out of it. Maybe you don't have to. You can also play video games for 4 hours a week. That's also fine. I'm not saying you should, but in the end, it all comes down to whatever you put your effort into. What has been my biggest challenge so far, both in personal life and well, actually my biggest challenge has been the last 16 months since I became a father, and trying to combine being a dad with working from home and running a, you know, self-employed business where I do everything myself. I'm a one-man show here. It's hard to do, and you know, you want to be there for your kid as much as possible, and trying to also put in as much work as possible at the same time is just not always possible, and it's stressful at times. So I would say that's the biggest challenge, which actually combines both my personal life and my 3D journey. It's trying to find this sort of balance between work and personal life on a scale where I never had to do that before. Instagram or LinkedIn for first project? Honestly, I don't like either. I don't think Instagram is a good place to showcase your work. I think Instagram is a good place to build up an audience to showcase your work, but it's not the place to showcase your work. The place to showcase your work is Behance, or ideally just a personal portfolio website. And if you don't want to find clients, then you use LinkedIn to build like a following and to reach people and to send people DMs. And you can use Instagram to reach people and build a following and send DMs, but you don't use those platforms really to build your portfolio. You use a website, or you use like Behance for that. Thank you, Anima. I appreciate it. I saw a video and this person used Boids to create a space battle. I've tried to work it how he did it, but fail each time. Boids. I mean, I have a video on using Boids to create like a flock of birds. So I would say it works very similarly. It's quite an old video, so I wouldn't even know if that still works like how I explained in the video. But if you look up birds on my channel, Mark Poppin, you can definitely do that. Yeah, it's a good video, and it will probably go over some of the same principles. Oh, please give it, yeah, shout out to Michaela. unsure how to pronounce it, but shout out to Michaela. Thank you for tuning into the stream. Appreciate it. Maybe M7, maybe. I'm unsure whether or not that's something that he would like to do, but if he does, then I'm definitely there to help him. And do you have goals in life you want to reach? So I just posted, actually. That's kind of a funny one, but one of my goals for the channel was to have a video that reached 1 million views within one single year, and I have one which is like little less than 30k views off of 1 million views, but it only has 5 more days to reach it. So that would be like one of the dreams for the channel. And besides that, like, my goal in life is to create a sustainable business around all of this that sort of keeps going and will provide for me in the future, and make sure that my family is set, and at some point I'm able to retire. Maybe that would be even better, but we'll have to see. Hello, Phoenix Draconis. So I'm gonna do about 5 to 10 more minutes, guys, and then we'll be hopping off. If you have any more questions, then feel free to ask those. What keeps me going and inspired? I mean, inspiration, one of the things that keeps me going actually is imposter syndrome. That's a great question. But one of the things that keeps me going is the fact that I always feel worse than everybody else in terms of like what I can make. So I want to get better continuously, and I love learning new things. So those two combined are usually the things that keep me going. And in terms of like inspiration, I'd say movies, TV shows. I'm a big enjoyer of those things. Video games, seeing something like Expedition 33, for example, which has these incredible visuals, and it's like an inspiration to make something that's equally beautiful. Yeah, likewise, Toby. Likewise. Absolutely. Do you have any experience about Forex? I do not have any experience in Forex, and I'm also not a financial expert. So even if I did have experience in that, I would definitely not recommend you listen to me. How to not lose motivation? I think the biggest two things you can do to keep motivation is, one, set attainable goals. Maybe you have a huge goal of, I want to be the best at rigging. Well, that's like an incredibly difficult goal to reach. So instead of saying that as the goal, maybe the goal should be, I want to learn how to rig a human. And then the next goal would be, I want to learn how to rig a dragon. And the next goal would be, I want to learn how to do rigging with an octopus. I don't know. You make goals that are more attainable for yourself, and by setting goals that are more attainable, you're likelier to attain them. And when you do, you'll feel good, and you reward yourself essentially for continuing that effort. And it's very similar to how games work, right? The big goal of playing an RPG, for example, is to reach the highest level there is, and that's your end goal. That's the thing that you should reach, but it's going to take you hundreds of hours maybe. So in the meantime, the game provides you with level ups frequently, and it provides you with messages of, wow, you're doing amazing, wow, you completed this dungeon, wow, you slayed that monster. Essentially, it just consistently tries to provide you positive feedback and tell you that you are doing a good job by setting smaller goals until you reach that huge goal. So that would be my main thing. I apologize if this has been discussed before. Recently started with 3D, but focusing on product visualization requirements. But now, about half a year in, the pressure of AI is making me to rethink. Okay. How's your experience with a client that has a object? So let's say I'm a client, right? And I have this controller here, and I say, well, James, can you make a product animation for me with this controller? I have a 3D model of it for you. Maybe you have to model it yourself. That's even better. So let's say there's no 3D model of it. I say you have to model it yourself. You would be able to do that. You would be able to model it. You would be able to make the cool animation with it. But if I were to ask an AI, I would have like a photo that I could send it and say, okay, here's a photo of my object. Please make a cool animation. But it wouldn't even know what's on the back there. It has no idea. It has to use all of these AI guessing methods to figure that out. So it's never going to be good. It's never going to be exactly the product the client wants that I would want. So no AI could generate the animation for me that I was looking for. I would have to have a human artist do that. I guess that's the best way of thinking about it when it comes to product animation. I feel like product visualization is one of the fields that might have the least to fear about AI so far. I'm a videographer and editor pivoting from 3D to from Taiwan. Just want to thank you. Appreciate it, Harvey. Good luck in your 3D journey. You got this. If 3D was a game, what level are you on? I'd say if like the max level of 3D would be 10, then I would be at like 5 to 6, maybe. Something like that. If you want to make animations, you should make animations. The more you make animations, the more you get a feel of how timing works, how keyframing works, how cameras work, all of the things that are important. That you should just start by making animations. Just make all the crappy animations you can think of. It will teach you a lot. And also study what's out there. Study movies, study animations. Look at famous TV shows that are animated. Look at, things that people see as great, as talented, and use that as inspiration, and try to see what's in common. Try to study design principles of animation. Try to study, basically all of the movies that have been rated well, and see why would this movie be good at what it does. Why is this a good animation? So what you're saying is full freedom is key. I'd say key is being able to make the idea inside of the head of your client. So your client will always have an idea what they want, and you should take that idea, turn it into something cool looking that is also uniquely your own, add your own spice on top of that, and then give it back to the client. Be like, okay, so this is sort of what you wanted, and I made it even better. And I don't think an AI can do that. Peace be for D. Thank you for submitting again. Loved your submission. If I weren't a 3D artist, what would you be doing? Well, before I was a 3D artist, I was a 2D artist. And in between, I was actually an art director. So I guess I would be doing something with, videography or photography, or I love creative work in general. So it would definitely be something creative. Absolutely. My problem I have is I think too big. We have one car when I can have 100 cars racing. Yeah. That's a problem. That's a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem, but it usually is a problem because it's just going to be hard to do, right? You're setting yourself up for failure by thinking too big. Free add-ons for adding grass. Yeah, I just use geometry nodes. Find a few free plant library assets. I believe the plant library on Superhive is completely free. It has a bunch of plant assets, and you can just use geometry nodes to scatter those on anything, and it's super easy. A bunch of tutorials on that too. Not on my channel per se, but in general. So yeah, Mark, you definitely need to set yourself attainable goals. Don't do 100 cars, just do 1 or 2, but don't do 100. All right, guys. Ooh, okay. Well, fair enough, A2. Maybe next time you can join. There's going to be another one at some point, for sure. So, I am going to head off and stream here. What's harder to make? Well, definitely dinosaurs. But yeah, I'm going to end stream here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to everybody who participated. Toby, thank you for your donation again. I really appreciate it. And I wish you all an amazing rest of your week, amazing rest of your day, rest of your evening, wherever you are. And we'll see each other again in the next live stream for the next challenge. Make sure to join the Discord server, link in the video description. And at that point, that's it. I'm up. Thanks, guys. See ya.